Viewer contributions make local programming possible on WNIN. Become a member of WNIN with your contribution so we can continue to make this programming available. Visit WNIN.org and click on the donate button.
Good afternoon. Thank you. It is a true privilege to be here today. The work we do in education is crucial to our state's future, and no one understands that more deeply than today's speaker. As Indiana's first Secretary of Education and the state's top executive education official, Dr. Katie Jenner is responsible for establishing a unified, student-centered vision across the full spectrum of education, from pre-K and K-12 to college. As one of 8 secretaries in Governor Mike Braun's cabinet, Dr. Jenner oversees 8 state agencies and boards, which comprise approximately 60% of the state's budget, or approximately $26 billion over the biennium. This includes leading the Indiana Department of Education, chairing the State Board of Education, overseeing the Commission for Higher Education, Charter School Board, Education Employee Relations Board, Indiana School for the Deaf, Indiana School for the Blind and Visually Impaired, and Indiana State Library. Under Secretary Jenner's leadership, the state of Indiana and local schools have celebrated a number of successes in K-12 education, including literacy rates increasing for 3 consecutive years, including the largest ever single increase in 2024, chronic absenteeism rates improving for 2 consecutive years, the unanimous adoption of our new high school diploma requirements that allow increased flexibility for students to personalize their journey, the highest Indiana high school graduation rate on record, creating a comprehensive teacher supply and demand marketplace, matching educators with open positions and recruiting new teachers to the profession, and transparently measuring school and student outcomes that matter most for parents, families, and educators with the Indiana GPS dashboard. Dr. Jenner previously served as a high school teacher, preschool to K district leader, and as vice president of a statewide higher education institution. She's also a wife and a mother to twin daughters. She lives in Madison, Indiana. Please join me in welcoming Indiana's Secretary of Education, Dr. Katie Jenner.
Well, good morning. So I'm a teacher through and through, so the first thing I'm going to have to do, for those of you who've heard me speak before, is set my alarm, because I'm used to teaching bell to bell, and I can go on and on and on, especially on the topic of education. The other thing is, as a high school teacher, I am really good at seeing if you're on your cell phone or if you doze off or all of the things. And I probably won't say anything. I'll just get awkwardly close to you until you wake up. No, it truly is such an honor to be in Evansville. And the first thing I want to do is recognize all of the educators in the room, K-12 higher ed. If you could please stand very quickly and be recognized. These are our folks, day in and day out, who are making it happen and who are following such a purpose-driven path, which is serving our kids, serving our future through education. And I think they're working on the presentation? Yeah? No pressure. This is also what happens in front of a room full of students. So just very quickly, I know it was shared that I live in Madison, Indiana, so southeastern, 3 hours away, right on the well. I have twin daughters who are sophomores in high school, so lots of excitement that goes on in my house. But what some people don't know, and if you've heard me speak before in Evansville, I grew up in Owensboro. So I love coming here, as I shared with a group earlier and as I've shared before, because you talk like me, I talk like you. And when I go to northern Indiana, I've lived in Indiana for 20 years now. When I go to northern Indiana, they're like, where are you from? I'm Like, there's another side. Our state is pretty big. So also, as shared under Governor Holcomb, and also our Lieutenant Governor, Suzanne Crouch, I'm so excited to see her here. I had the opportunity to lead the K-12 space, so the Department of Education, and then also chair the Indiana State Board of Education. When Governor Braun was elected, he called the day after Election Day and he said, would you be willing to stick around? And also, would you be willing to take a larger portfolio? Because the whole goal is how might we build a seamless pathway or a seamless pipeline, talent pipeline for Hoosiers. And that includes K-12 higher education into the workforce. Whether you're at USI or Ivy Tech, you're the two I saw. What college am I missing that's here? Only if you're here. They're not here. Oh, University of Evansville's here. Good. So I didn't get to your table. I wanted to shout you out, though. So University of Evansville, who else is here? I know I am wearing the ACES purple. Yes, I am. Any other higher eds? And then also, again, our K-12 path. I know EVSC is here. Signature School is here. Mount Vernon is here. Any other K-12s? Say it again. Joshua Academy. Thank you. I thought you were pointing to Joshua on the stage. Joshua Academy. Got it. Very, very good. So the goal is to build one talent pipeline working together. And so I'll get into a few things today. And by the way, you'll have this entire PDF sent to you. So there are some slides I am going to move very, very quickly for the sake of time. But you can have all of this. You can use this. Wholeheartedly, I believe in this. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So the results and some of what I'm going to talk about today, and I'll talk about some things that we have to celebrate as a state. I'll also talk about some opportunities for improvement that we still need to work on. But the way that we get there starts locally and is driven together. So let's jump straight in. I've already talked through the vertical, and they did that in the introduction. About 60% of the budget, so $26 billion. I think the thing a lot of people talk about is K-12 is typically about half the budget. Higher ed is typically about 10%. This was a tough budget year, so give or take on that, it's about $26 billion. And then I also will have Molly, not yet, we'll do that towards the end. Like any teacher, I do have a takeaway for you. It is a one-pager. Can I see an example? Thank you, Molly. It is a one-pager that if I hand to you right now, just like my high school students, I know you look at right now, so you can take home and hopefully enjoy that. These are some of the successes that we have as a state. And I think Indiana is so humble, and we often don't tell our story. So I do hope you take a moment to look at that. First topic of the day, making sure every child in Indiana can read. Seems like such a common goal. It will always be our goal. But at third grade, and there's U.S. data and international data, we can virtually predict what's going to happen to that child if they're reading or not by third grade. So it's such a pivotal time. And this is one of my good friends, Kimyana Burke, who led the way in Mississippi. Is anybody here from Mississippi? Okay, good. Then I'll say it. A lot of times you don't think of Mississippi as like the reading state. You used to not. But now you do think of Mississippi as that because they were 50th in the nation. This was pre-COVID. They jumped to 21st in the nation. Now they're continuing to move up in Mississippi. They've closed gaps across various student populations. It's incredible what they're doing. And Mississippi really gave our country a roadmap for blue states, for red states, for purple states. Across our country, nearly every state has passed science of reading laws and pointed to the work that we have to do. This longitudinal chart shows where we were pre-COVID. A lot of people talk about how our academic data was exacerbated by the COVID pandemic. That is accurate across our country. With 100% certainty, it shot down. Most English-speaking countries did. In Indiana, we were going down even prior to COVID. You can see that. The chart in the piece that I really wish I was here the afternoon of August 13th, that's when we're going to release our data for the state reading this past year. You all, it's going to make national headlines. And I don't want to say too much because my comms director is sitting right here and she does fuss at me behind the scenes when I say too much. But I could not be more proud of our teachers, you have parents and families for jumping in and helping. And I look forward to sharing that data August 13th. I also have been able to preview some of the local data. Again, I definitely won't overshare for them, but boy, do you have a story to tell in Evansville. I can't wait for you to see that. And it gives me cold chills because with urgency and unapologetically, we have to make sure our children are reading. And that means, and let me show you this data, and then I'll jump into the tactics. The NAEP assessment is the only assessment in our country that can be compared state to state. So sometimes people will take the iLearn data in business and industry. Folks, you all listen on this one because this happens sometimes with your sectors. Because it wouldn't, I can see why you do it, but I'm going to tell you why you should not go into too many details. iLearn assessment is Indiana only. Illinois, when they tried to compare, totally different assessment, totally different level that they set pass rates. So the only assessment that we can compare as a country is NAEP. Indiana, and again, this was before we got our reading data this year. Now, once we see our reading data, I can really see Indiana jumped up the highest we ever have been in reading. 6th in the nation, top 6th in the nation in 4th grade reading, top 6th in the nation in 8th grade reading. In math, you can see we are 9th in the nation for 4th grade math, 13th in the nation for 8th grade math. And that's something, and I remember talking to Suzanne over the past few years, that's something that a lot of people don't realize where we are, because I think sometimes we're our biggest critics as people, and how can we keep getting better? And we have to do that, but we also have to look at where we are today and how far we've come. One of the things I'm most excited about in Indiana, and I know that you can't see exactly what this chart says, you will be able to when you see the PDF, but where most states have seen movement with kids are your 90th percentile. 90th percentile are your students who are some of the brightest in the class. 10th percentile on the far left, those are our students who really, really struggle. So most states across the country are seeing movement in the 75th and 90th percentile with kids. We're getting our learners who are high achievers, we're getting them moving. Where most states are struggling across the country, nearly all, and really what separated Indiana and what caused us to jump to 6th in the nation is on the left side, the 10th percentile and 25th percentile. The blue bar is the growth for reading for our most struggling readers. And that, a lot can be pointed to as we're looking at return on investment to the time and energy that our teachers are putting into training in science of reading, and we'll get into, again, some of those tactics. But I think that is one of the biggest stories that we're asked about traveling the nation. Let's talk about the literacy investments. Some of you may know, Indiana, we had our largest literacy investment in the history of our state, about $170 million public-private dollars braided to support our schools at the local level. A huge shout out to Lilly Endowment. It is a gift that they're in the state of Indiana. They've made a huge investment, and we're working with them on some potential future partnerships, but really, really appreciate them. One of the tactics that has really helped us is, for years and years, when you looked at that longitudinal data, we were testing at the end of 3rd grade to see if a child is reading or not. And I just shared with you the research, which says if you're not reading at the end of 3rd grade, then we can predict the results. So some teachers and some of our team members said, how about we test before that? How about we try to test them in 2nd grade? Make it not punitive at all for the kid, not punitive for anyone, but just so we can get that data. I almost killed that idea, I'll be honest with you, because I did not want one more assessment. But I was convinced to give it a shot. Let's opt in, allow an opt-in. We had nearly every school in the state over a couple, 3 years opt in to do that. And what you can see is, and the numbers are towards the top, about on average 44% of our 2nd graders are reading at the 2nd grade. You may have kids or grandkids or nieces or nephews, about 44% are reading. But by doing this assessment a bit early, what we've heard from teachers is it's allowing them to then focus interventions on that other 56% and strategically work with them. So that was one big return on investment. The other, and this is really what the endowment and a lot of our investments have supported, is the Indiana Literacy Cadre. I know EVSC has been a big user. You were talking to me this morning about the Indiana Literacy Cadre. Mount Vernon, are you all? Sorry to call you out. Sorry. Okay. Should have checked that. But that's okay. Don't feel bad. Don't feel bad. But this was another that I'm a big believer in, like, rather than forcing everyone to do all the things, let's allow opt-in for schools who want to raise their hand and do it, but also who need the most help and support. I'm sure your data is excellent and you are good to go. Your husband's shaking his head. Okay, got it. Okay, I'll stop looking at you all. Okay. But this is the return on investment that we're seeing with the literacy cadre. By the way, this is last year's data. The coming year's data is probably going to really jump from here. But of schools who are doing the literacy cadre, which is really getting someone in the school to support teachers, to look at the data, to use the science of reading. If a student is struggling with phonemic awareness, here are some strategies immediately, because every student struggles with different types of reading skills. It's not just reading. Some may be phonics, some may be phonemic awareness, some may be comprehension, some may be vocabulary. Our literacy cadre schools jumped 2.5%, where non-literacy cadre schools jumped 0.2%. So we continued that investment. Let's talk really quickly about STEM. I know we have some STEM teachers in the room. I know we have some STEM industries in the room. I think STEM is an area that, as a state, and many states we have talked about STEM for decades, at least 2 or 3 decades. And in some areas of the state, there might be like a community initiative around STEM, but this is a huge opportunity for Indiana in terms of skilling up our people. And one example of this that I'll touch on briefly is even the influence of AI that is right on our doorstep. It's already in our house, really. But I'll also pause here and share with our most recent iLearn data. And I'm glad that I'm hooked up to radio and some media here. So this would be very helpful if you could clear this up. For our recent iLearn data, our math data is moving. It is moving across the state in a positive direction, and has been for several years since COVID. Our English language arts data, which this is where some media clarity would be helpful. English language arts test a lot broader of a topic than reading. So reading, teachers are shaking their heads. Reading scores will be out next month. English language arts were just released, and we've had a lot of questions come up from people, so wanted to flag that. Our English language arts scores, we're seeing movement in our upper elementary grades, but where I would lay it on the table we have to solve is our adolescent readers, our adolescent ELA students. So middle schoolers, 6th, 7th, 8th grade, they are still showing struggles in reading. So I think as a community, and we're certainly working on some initiatives as a state, I would charge you all, I would encourage you, anything we can do at that middle school level in the area of reading and English language arts, we should. That is the only needle that we have not moved yet, longitudinally. We've got to solve it, and we can. Okay, back to STEM a bit more. These are just some fun facts. So, Indiana robotics. Which schools have robotics teams? EVSC, I know you do. Signature School. Mount Vernon. Okay, I was looking for you. Come on. Okay, good. Okay, all the schools represented have robotics teams. This is one of the most popular STEM entities in the state of Indiana. And also, I will tell you, we have the largest state championship in the nation. It's often hosted at Lucas Oil Stadium. They move all the bleachers back. No footballs in sight. And there are small children and tall children running around with robots everywhere. It is really, really cool. We also have over 1,500 elementary and middle school robotics teams, more than any other state in the country. And actually, our teams in Indiana make up about 15% of all teams. I say that to you because while we do have some robotics grants for schools, if you are a funder or a business partner, and even if you love robotics as an adult, we are always as schools looking for coaches to help kids in the area of robotics. It's an area that is not just like a sit and get like I'm doing with you today, but kids are hands-on. And some of our kids who may struggle academically, their world is on fire in a good way when they're with robots. Another thing that I'll mention, Indiana is a state leader with computer science. A call that I was on yesterday with one of our leading tech companies in Indiana said, you know how we advocated for like 15 years for computer science? We want computer science, but really it should be AI too. Really it should be digital literacy. I mean, the bottom line is technology is moving faster than we can even keep up. You all know that. So I have asked, don't give us another mandate in schools, but computer science, we have AI standards that are within that. So we may adjust the name of the course to be more inclusive or what have you. But just wanted to flag that. Again, the AI impact, we were a front leader in our state with schools and teachers who raised their hand. And I remember in the spring, probably 2 or 3 years ago, is when I started hearing from a lot of teachers who were concerned about students sending their prompt through the AI generator and pushing out a paper. So I had a little bit of that, and then I pulled a teacher group together and said, okay, we know AI is here. How might we leverage AI for the good? Like, what could we use it for? So we invested several $1 million and launched a competitive grant. Again, schools could opt in. And the 2 questions we asked is, how might we leverage AI to reduce teacher workload? So they're focused on the main thing, which is kids, and not some of the paperwork stuff, right? The main thing. And then the other is, how might we leverage AI to increase student tutoring? Because student tutoring, if it's in a small group, is one of our best return on investments. We had a lot of people lean in, and you can see we've had over 9,100 teachers and over 102,000 students. We've been contacted by some national research firms to study this. But again, I think in the AI space, we're only just beginning in terms of How might we leverage it? How might we also protect on some things? But a big opportunity there. The future of the Indiana diploma. Had an opportunity to speak with EVSC this morning. A few reasons why this mattered so much for Indiana and why we had to proceed with urgency. One is we have fewer students who are enrolling in higher education, and even fewer are graduating. For our higher education folks in the room, one thing that we're working together on is how do we make sure those degrees and certifications are updated and that matter to the child and to our business and industry. Number two, we're hearing loud and clear from business and industry, students need skills. Now that we have phones right with us at all times, we're hearing mainly from business and industry, we need kids who can communicate. And I heard a little, And it's like the little things. It's like, do you make eye contact? Very good job, sir. How's your handshake? Oh, you even stood up a little bit. Yeah, very good, right? And not a floppy fish. Have you talked to a teenager? Like if I'm talking to you right now, have you talked to a teenager? And imagine this is you. And they're kind of standing like this and they're sort of talking to you, but they're like looking at everyone else and they're not. These are all skills that have to be taught. Children imitate us, all of us. These are skills that have to be taught. The other skill we hear constantly is collaboration. I believe wholeheartedly as a country, we were founded on unique ideas and thoughts. And our founding fathers, it was all about compromise. They disagreed better. We have to make sure our kids know that skill. There will always be unique opinions. We need unique opinions, but we have to make sure that kids know how to disagree better and work with others. We hear that from you, business and industry. And third most that we hear is work ethic. Work ethic. And by the way, business and industry will say, we just need them to come to work. And I'll typically say, and we just need them to come to school, right? And I'll get into a bit of that data here shortly. And I did skip one, but I'll highlight that slide in particular, or very specifically. So this is the higher ed path right now. We collect for every child in Indiana what their plan is. What's your dream? What's your plan after graduation? So when every single child, over 75,000 kids walk across the stage in May, we know what their plan is. About 76% say they want to continue their education in some way, whether a 2-year, 4-year CTE program. About 53% actually do. If you do the quick math, so that's about 16,000 kids who walked across our stage in May and who are already just, life has happened and they will not make it. I think our big opportunity, and we've talked about it some this morning, and I've talked to several of you, is Indiana is number 1 in the nation for students leaving with college credit. Number 1 in the nation. About 64% of our kids leave with college credit. So what we're trying to think through in partnership with K-12 and higher ed and workforce is how do we make sure the credits are not random acts of credits, but they make a credential when possible. The average student leaves with 13.5 credits. A short-term credential in Indiana starts between 15 and 18 credits. We have thousands of children in Indiana within, don't worry, this is not my final timer. This was just my little snooze. Hold on. But we have thousands of students sitting in our classrooms, you all, who are between 1, 2, and 3 classes of completing a credential. And because it wasn't built in our system, many of them just didn't know. So what a huge opportunity for Indiana. I already mentioned the importance of skill development, what our business and industries have shared. This is the one that I did miss but wanted to flag. Going into this, gosh, we've studied a lot of education and workforce data, but I'd never really studied data regarding students who raise their hand and want to serve our country. I remember very clearly at Madison Consolidated High School talking to these kids who wanted to serve our country. But when I talked to our National Guard and also our military branches, they shared 77% of our students who walk across the stage who want to serve our country are disqualified out of the gate for primarily for physical or character. So how might we give them, if they want to serve our country, that recipe for success much earlier? The last one that I mentioned and why we had to do better and redesign high school, this is our chronic absenteeism data. Again, you can't see the numbers specifically, but I'll give you a sense. In Indiana, we have an inverted bell curve here. So the far left is going to be your K1, 2 grades. That's when we're building foundations, reading and math, and the social skills. We have to have kids there. Middle school, parents are sending their kids in middle school more often. I mean, I don't blame them. I sent my kids too in middle school. I was like, oh, we're going to school. But where we're struggling, and this is a nationwide trend, is at the high school level. And if you can't see grade 12, but I'm going to tell you, 12th graders in Indiana, about a third of them missed a month or more of school. Wow. So I flag that for you because when we've pulled our students together to do focus groups, we've had some students who said, you know, I'm embarrassed, I can't read, or I'm struggling, I don't want to be around my peers. We've had some students who said, I have a younger sibling I have to caretake for because my mom has to work. My dad's out of the picture. The most common by far that we hear on this chronic absenteeism is they don't see the value at the high school level. And that's hard. Like, I'm a high school teacher. That's so hard to hear. But what an opportunity to then take all of this data that I just shared with you, right? And think, okay, really, K-12 education hasn't changed a lot in 100 years. And how might Indiana really think about making sure that 4 years is as valuable as possible for kids and really respecting their unique path, whether they want to go straight to enrollment, employment, or serve our country. So I won't get into the diploma rule because we really are out of time. I can't snooze any longer. But I can tell you, do we have this one pager too? So this will be a second homework assignment. I'm going to give you a takeaway with the celebrations. This is the linked. So when you get the presentation, you're welcome to click on the link. This is opt-in for high schools for the next 3 years. We will have schools opting in. I've already had a lot of calls. And again, this is really providing a recipe for success for the student, parent, family, the school about what our higher eds, our employers, and our military leaders have said. I will flag one thing before I end. Part of what in the redesign we wanted to do is make sure the diplomas mean something. Make sure they have currency for kids. So any student who earns the enrollment honors plus seal, which is not based on, did you get this score on ACT? Did you get this score on SAT? It's based on, did you hit some of the outcomes that we know you could, that we're seeing high school students do? If you hit those outcomes, every Indiana public college and university has agreed to direct admit that child. Every. Steve, coming for you. I'm so proud of them because you think about our seniors who are like, oh, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? If you hit the outcome, you will be direct admitted. And that is to USI, IU Bloomington, talked to Pam Whitten yesterday, Purdue, West Lafayette, talked to Mung last week, like across the board. For the students who want to go into the employment area, the Honors Plus seal has them leaving with a credential of value. So they're leaving with educational attainment in a market-driven area that no one can ever take away. And in fact, hopefully it's stackable. For those students, we have several apprenticeships that are direct entry. We have several, and I will share what Evansville pointed out. I think it's a good flag. We have several business and industry leaders, mainly our Fortune 100 companies, who've said we will automatically interview all these students. Obviously, they can't guarantee them a job. It depends on the economy. But talking to Evansville this morning, and Lloyd Winnicky, I'm going to shout you out too. I'm going to shout your action item out too. He's smiling. Does anyone ever give you an action item? Because I'm going to. That's true. When you're a mayor, I get a lot. But the opportunity is for a region to really lead on business and industry partnerships that work for you to keep the kids in southwestern Indiana. And Evansville's already such a leader in this space. There's huge potential there. So, and then finally, the enlistment and service area, our military branches and National Guard have guaranteed specific promotions that kids could get. They could get their choice of which duty they want within. So a lot of perks on that. And again, I'm gonna end with a quote that, quite frankly, guides my drive. If you can't fly, then run. If you can't run, then walk. If you can't walk, then crawl. But by all means, keep moving. When it comes to kids, there's no time to waste. When it comes to kids, it takes every teacher, and we're going to do our part. It takes every community leader and business leader, and I know there are various partners to our schools in here. It takes all of us, but we have to move with urgency. Indiana is winning in a number of different ways, and that's because of what you're doing locally. And I thank you for your time, and I will pass the mic. But we're going to open for Q&A. Glad to answer any questions that you may have.
Just raise your hand. I'll come to you with the microphone.
I'm an ex-technical teacher at the local high school, and I'm just wondering where Indiana stands in training for jobs. And when a young person comes out of high school and they're ready to go to work and get a good pay and make it all worthwhile, are we trending in that direction, or and particularly in the grade schools?
Thank you for that question. Our CTE, current technical education numbers, enrollments were the highest they've ever been. This past, they are trending up. Almost all of our CTE courses are tied to higher ed credit and can help a student leave with a market-driven credential that goes straight to business and industry. Business and industry have shared, here's what we need if a student's interested in this. One of the biggest trends, and it's not a trend, it's a movement, is the apprenticeship movement. And an apprenticeship has often been associated with trades. It's associated with trades, but it's also associated with, and I'll give you an example, Old National Bank CEO Jim Ryan is a part of a group trying to launch an insurance and banking apprenticeship. He's leading on that. The health care, my goodness, was just with Romuletti, was with IU Health, Ascension, Franciscan. I could go on, Deaconess. How might we build that talent pipeline and open up that junior and senior year so students who, they're not forced into a path, but if they have interests and if they have a calling, a pull, we can help them earn a credential of value in that area so they can immediately go into the workforce or could immediately get a stackable credential through whether Ivy Tech or USI or what have you. So a ton of work in that space. That could be, sir, that could be a presentation all day long if you want to learn more. But it's a major element. Yes.
Hi, my name is Shelby Phelps. I represent Evansville Teachers Association. I'm also a high school English teacher. My question is regarding the new high school diploma pathway. What challenges have we faced in the implementation of the new graduation pathways?
Thank you for that question, Shelby. So it is very new in implementing. So this is the first year that schools can opt in. I anticipate we will learn a lot. That's the goal. We want to learn. We want to hear what is working, what do we need to finesse. I flew through a slide. I flew through this slide, Shelby. These are the things that people have said we need ASAP to do the best we can to launch it. So those are things that we're building out right now to help. So it includes everything from the credential of value list, which is now available, that was developed with business and industry, some work-based learning supports, working on the accountability rule. But if there are things when you get this PDF later, they're like, that's not on the list, please ping me. Let's make sure it is. Because the key to any implementation is learn, make it better, push through the brick wall that's there for kids. So thank you for that question. Yeah.
Dr. Jenner, I'm Lori Young, and I'm also a fellow Rotarian. I'm in my 33rd year of teaching. So I want to say thank you for coming here, and I'm so excited that you shared the NAEP data also with our business community. And I do have a question for you. From your perspective, what do you feel that we as Rotarians can do to help support our public schools, our non-public schools, to make education even stronger in this area?
Thank you for that question. I've traveled all over the state, and I specifically do everything I can to accept Rotarian invitations because you are the change agents in your community. I mean, you are all uniquely at different tables around your community where your voice can truly impact what happens. So a couple things come to mind. The first right out of the gate is communication. I think, I hope that, how many learned something new today? I'm totally looking for anyone who doesn't raise your hand right now. No, I'm kidding. Yeah. So it's so interesting when traveling the state, like all of this information is out there, including the NAEP data, right? We press release that, we shared that. We are in such an information-rich environment where we're constantly sent all the things, and you just can't read everything. So one of the things I would ask you is please share some of what you've learned. That would be the first. Second, when the reading data comes out August 13th, and I know what your community looks like, you need to take a moment and celebrate your people, your community. And again, it's our teachers, it's our school leaders, it's our parents and families. It's a little thing, like a thank you, right? It's a little thing. Third big area is really in that high school diploma space. Work-based learning and business and industry partnership can come in many different forms. The creme de la creme is apprenticeships, and yes, Jim Ryan is working on that. But if you can you asked about grade school earlier. I think one of our big opportunities is making sure we're exposing kids much earlier in middle school, even about what's possible. So going in and sharing with middle school students, offering a work-based learning, even if it's just a short mentorship. We know data shows if you want to learn skills, it's not this sit and get like I'm doing. It's actually being in an environment and practicing that. It's work-based learning. So all of those elements, I would say, could be immediate right out of the gate. We'd love your help on. Yes.
Dr. Jenner, I love your passion. So
Thank you
for bringing that to the task. Also appreciate the positive information about our city and our state and how we're performing. I think we are often our own worst enemies. But a huge element of success for a student is support and encouragement at home. What can the state do to help increase that so that the home environment becomes an ally instead of an adversary, or worse yet, a non-participant?
Yeah, I mean, I think this is, thank you for the question. Those of you who've been in education for a while, I mean, this has been an age-old discussion, right? We know the very best situation for a child is when the school, the parent and family, the child, that we're all working together. We have some parents who absolutely have leaned into our schools, whether it's helping us with the reading. Some leaned in after COVID who had some concerns. I think we should take those concerns. I really believe we should take those concerns, hear them, and see what we can do. It's that opening that conversation and disagreeing better from time to time. The reality is, and just being honest, I think we will always have some parents who are not engaged. And I know there are a couple school counselors in here and others. I think in those cases, having business and industry, or even the Boys and Girls Club I saw is here. Holly, the work that you do, help with some of the wraparound services, because schools can't do it all. I mean, our main focus is the teaching side, and some of your expertise coming into our schools really matters. Those are probably some of my top, but that is an age-old question. If you have any solution ideas in the room, like we're all ears. We cannot legislate parents and families, nor do I think we ever should. But we're gonna keep leaning in and supporting the parents and families who want to help, and we're gonna do everything we can to get other parents and families to join us in moving the needle for their child. And again, we do need help for some, from some.
Final question over here.
Again, thank you so much for being here. My name is Rita Taylor, and I work for the Indiana State Teachers Association and support all of these wonderful educators in the building. Thankfully, my official office is across the street from your office at the State House, and I am very grateful for the time that you allow with our government relations team to come over and speak. And one of the questions that I have from listening in on the conversations is, when is the accountability rule going to be made public, so that we can have more information on that? And I believe that also will go toward that parenting aspect, to get more parents involved and know more about how to support their students.
This is a great example of like our information overload culture that we're in. The accountability rule for the first round of comments. By the way, the accountability rule, that's the A to F model some people refer to. That accountability rule posted last week, so it is on. We press released it. Media, if you can cover it, we'd sure love for any public comments. I think that's absolutely the public comments. That's what made our high school rule what it is. The other thing that is posted for public comment is our federal waiver. The federal waiver is really, most of our schools get, some of them get 12 to 16 different federal funds in K-12 that flow to them, and each has compliance paperwork tied to it. And so the federal waiver is really to try to get some of the compliance, the bureaucracy out of the way, so that we can give schools a lump sum of money to support reading, kids in poverty, what have you. So that is also available for public comment. They were both press released on Thursday. All right, I think that was the last one. Thank you all very much.